Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Google Analytics Power webinar series. This is Abdullah from Enor. I have the privilege to look after our client partners in the Middle East and North Africa region. I'm based in lovely Qatar. Speakers today, joining me, two great speakers. Eric Fettman is joining us from the East Coast in the US. He's a distinguished analytics coach and speaker. Eric has been traveling the globe educating marketers, consultants, and business owners on Google Analytics and optimization. Eric is also the founder and author of GoogleAnalyticsTest.com. Also on the call, Roberto Croci at Google. He's also with us. He's the enterprise analytics lead for Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. And he's been evangelizing Google Analytics since 2010, speaking in many conferences and bringing in a strong background in e-commerce and management consulting. Eric is also the co-author of our upcoming book to be published by Wiley. It's already in Amazon for pre-order and will be released in early 2016. So look out for it. Just if you allow me a minute to give you a quick background on Enor and the expertise we bring into the table. We were founded in 2003 in Silicon Valley. We fell in love with data and later become one of the early partners with Google on Google Analytics. When the premium edition was introduced in 2011, we became one of the early resellers. So today we are one of the leading premium resellers, and we are very involved in analytics community, including Digital Analytics Association and contributing to the official Google blog, amongst others. So on the footprint global, we got offices spanning 3 continents, operations and boots on the ground covering Emirates, Saudi, Qatar, Egypt, Belgium, and others. If you happen to be in a country I did not mention, I apologize. We're probably there. So we work with many global brands. Just to let you give an idea what we do. We work with many global brands you're familiar with to help enabling them to become more data-driven. We offer services around web, mobile analytics, social analytics with sentiment analysis, opinion mining, and qualitative analytics, amplifying the voice of the customer through online surveys, as well as A/B testing and optimization. On the client's size, from the trenches, we work on with all sorts of verticals and most familiar companies with brands globally recognized in the globe and in MENA clients as well. We have one-stop shop housing a lot of great tools for you to leverage, including campaign management and tracking, GA demos websites, along with other tools. I encourage you to explore afterwards. Just a quick housekeeping item. This call is being recorded for training purposes, also to be available for those who can't make it. There'll be an opportunity for you to interact and ask questions, and we encourage you to do that. So there's 2 ways to do it. Either you can raise your hand for the microphone to be granted to you during the Q&A and answer session, or you can type your question at any time. In fact, why don't we just try this out quickly? How many people here in this webinar who are who happen to be in MENA, Middle East, or North Africa? If you happen to be there, please just raise your hand quickly for me. All right, quite a lot. Oh, we got 20 plus people. Excellent. All right, and Europe? North America? Okay, great. So that's it for now. Let me please introduce Eric. Eric, I'm going to give you the mic. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Abdullah. you could just make me presenter, Abdullah, and I will get rolling.
Sure, you got it.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining the first of our Power Webinar series. Thank you for that introduction, Abdullah. Thank you for Roberto Croce of Google for joining our webinar today. Let me just go ahead and... Okay, so the agenda. We're going to start with some of the very basics, and we're going to also get into some more of the advanced topics. So before we can track success in Google Analytics, before we can measure what's important to us, we have to measure the basic behaviors. No tracking success without tracking. So we're going to start with very basics of tracking, which most of us are probably familiar with, but we'll just step back and take a little bit of a refresher as far as that goes. We're going to talk very quickly about tracking non-page view interactions, because sometimes our success may not be tracked by a simple page view. We're going to talk about goal configuration. When we're talking about success in Google Analytics, we're basically talking about two things. We're talking about goal tracking, or on a more detailed level, we're talking about e-commerce tracking. And on an even more detailed level, we are talking about enhanced e-commerce tracking, which is what Roberto is joining us for today. We'll also talk about funnels and custom funnels that will show even further progress through steps in your conversion path. We'll talk quickly about basic e-commerce, a little bit about Google Play integration on the app end, talk a little bit about CRM integration as well, and then we're going to turn it over to Roberto for detailed, interesting information about enhanced e-commerce. Now you see that we have a lot of topics that we are going to cover today. This is going to be a little bit of an overview of Google Analytics as well, getting all the way from basic tracking to the more detailed, more advanced features like CRM integration and enhanced e-commerce. Make sure that you just take away the important takeaways. There are additional resources for the more technical information that you can review. We can't go into great detail about all of these topics in the time that we have, but we wanted to provide a solid overview about getting from point A to point B and beyond in terms of tracking important behaviors and tracking what's important to you as a success measure. So with that, Q&A afterwards. Basics of Google Analytics data collection. Two main questions that Google Analytics answers. Really, when it comes down to it, the two main questions that Google Analytics really answers is, where are your visitors coming from? Where are your app users, where are your app downloaders coming from? How are people getting to you to begin with? We're not going to talk about that a lot today. It's super important. We're going to talk about that more in the upcoming webinar. Today we're going to talk about the what question. That's the other big question that Google Analytics answers. What are visitors doing? What are your users doing once they are on your website, once they're in your app? Basic page view tracking through native code in Google Analytics if you've been involved in implementation. Especially if you were implementing natively, not using a tag management system, you go into the admin, you get this tracking code, and the basic thing that happens when you put this tracking code on all pages of your site is that you're sending page view data into Google Analytics that will appear in the pages report. If you are configuring basic page view tracking through Google Tag Manager or even another tag management system, it's the same basic paradigm. You set up a tag and you see that the track type is page view. So you're sending page views into Google Analytics. And just as a little bit of a best practice that we'll see later on in our event tag, we're actually going to use a variable for our property ID so that when we send other types of tracking into Google Analytics, we can reuse this property ID over and over again to tell Google Analytics, this is my website, this is my app. So with the basic page view tracking, we get our page view data that's accessed in the Pages report and throughout Google Analytics. When the page goes into Google Analytics, there's a lot of other information that goes in as well. So it's not just the page data that is being sent, but it is the acquisition data, what medium, what source, what referring URL, if it's a referral visit. Where did the visitor originate from? What was the geography? That's actually based on IP address. That's interpreted from IP address. All of the technology information, browser, operating system, browser version, so forth. So the basic page view tracking in Google Analytics populates most of the audience acquisition and behavior reports, but there's still going to be a lot of important behavior that potentially would not be tracked with basic page view tracking that we'll have to set up, in most cases, event tracking before. For those of us who use Google Analytics for a while, we're familiar with event tracking. Event tracking, to an extent social tracking, to an extent virtual page views, are going to fill in some gaps, and we're going to see what those gaps are with the basic page view tracking. Also, the conversion reports are not populated at all by default in Google Analytics. Why are they not populated by default? Because you have to tell Google Analytics what success means for you, and we're going to come back to that in a few slides. Tracking non-page view interactions. And again, we're going to go over this very quickly. We're going to get a quick overview of the different types of interactions that would not be tracked by default. So you can track them, and you can track them as successes, track them as goals, if that is what your KPIs dictate, your key performance indicators. So just taking a look at this page, there are all types of interactions that would not be tracked by default. Video plays would not be tracked by default. Off-site links would not be tracked by default. Mail to links, PDFs would not be tracked by default. Why is that? Well, you have to stop and think. If we go back to that basic code, that basic tracking, if you don't have that basic tracking within the asset that's being accessed, by default, no data is sent to Google Analytics. So when you're clicking to someone else's website, you may be generating data for them, but you're not generating data within your own Google Analytics. So we want to think in terms of that basic tracking. If that tracking code is not kicking in, then you're not getting data by default in Google Analytics, but there is certainly a provision for getting data into Google Analytics through event tracking. Change tabs. If you go through multiple tabs, it's not a page load. Data is not going to be captured by default. Social tracking, social shares, not tracked by default. Any type of different perspectives on a product, changing color, changing angle, any kind of pop-up text, any kind of hover, any kind of modal window, different filtering, linking off to a pop-up window that maybe would show your store location or make this my store, scrolling, live chat, important interaction. You want to measure live chat. That's not going to be tracked by default. Also, more on the mobile website end, we have pinching. That's not going to be tracked by default. We also have expanding and collapsing a menu. We have clicking a telephone link. That's an important interaction that would not be tracked by default. Rotation would not be tracked by default. So all of these actions that we would potentially want to track, we would have to track through event tracking. And again, we're going through this very quickly. When we generate events in Google Analytics, we're sending additional data into Google Analytics that will populate the events report, so event category action label. Within Google Tag Manager, also, we send in event data through a dedicated event tag. In this case, we're sending event data for a PDF click-through. And then your events reports are populated. So all of these types of actions that we viewed in the previous screens are not tracked by default, but there certainly is a way that we can track them within Google Analytics. We're not going to get into the details of that during this webinar because we don't have the time, but it's important to be aware of those actions that aren't tracked by default and that you can track normally through events. And once those are tracked, we can decide that if it's aligned with our KPIs, if more than anything else we want our visitors to get to complete a video or to download a PDF or to complete a social action, we can set up goal tracking specifically for those actions. If those are the most important actions or among the most important actions, whether they're the big macro conversions, the things that you really want people to do, or the micro conversions, supporting actions that you want people to take, you can track them as goals within Google Analytics. Also, if we have a multi-screen process where you see that the URL doesn't change, if you're using Ajax technology and you're going back to the web server and you're pulling up new pages but the URL doesn't change, we can still track that as well through events or through virtual page views. Virtual page views similar to event tracking, but you're pushing additional data in as page views, and that will appear within the pages report. Same thing within Google Tag Manager, you can generate virtual page views, and those virtual page views will be pushed into the regular pages report and will show up as a regular physical request URI, just like all other pages. Again, we're going through this very quickly, but just to give you an idea, if you have a multi-step process where the URL does not change, you can still generate page views for that. Why is that important? Well, we may want to set up a funnel for step 1 to step 2 to step 3 as well. So it's not necessarily the last interaction. It may be all of the interactions leading to the success action that we also want to track as funnel steps. Okay, so now we get to goal configuration, which is really what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about goal configuration. We're talking about e-commerce tracking. So that was a quick 10-minute overview of getting all the data into Google Analytics that you need to potentially build goals upon. We saw before that the Google Analytics conversion reports are not populated by default. Why aren't they? And we've already somewhat addressed this, but let's go back to that point. Why are the conversion reports not populated by default? For the very simple reason that Google Analytics does not know your key performance indicators. It does not know which actions are the most important for you. What it does know is that if you are tracking a website, if you are tracking an app, and whether it is transactional or whether it is more of a publishing model where visitors are consuming information, there always has to be at least one indicator of success, because if you've gone through the effort and the expense and the maintenance for building a website, for building an app, you have to have at least one thing that defines success, and it can be multiple successes. You don't have to have just one goal. You can have multiple goals. You can have a goal for a lead submission. You could have a goal for a newsletter sign up. Any type of significant action you can track as a goal. If it's more transactional, we can track that as e-commerce. Roberto is going to talk more about that, but you have to have at least one action, at least one that indicates success, because without that, you don't have anything for your analytics to really crystallize around. So we have to tell Google Analytics which actions mean success for our website. In the case of goals, we're going to take existing data and we're going to say, Google Analytics, when someone accesses my thank you for submitting a lead page, that means success for me. When we're talking about e-commerce tracking, we're going to have to push additional data into Google Analytics, but in either case, you have to tell Google Analytics, this is what success means to me, this is what a conversion looks like. And when we say conversion, sometimes, I apologize, I use this terminology. Conversion means that a visitor has gone from being a visitor who hasn't completed the most wanted action to a visitor who has completed the most wanted interaction. So they've converted from someone who hasn't completed a goal or e-commerce to someone who has completed a goal or e-commerce. When we're talking about conversion types, we're usually talking about someone reaching a page, a thank you page, a receipt page, any kind of confirmation page, or we could track any of those events that we looked at before. So someone watching a video, someone completing a video to 75%, someone even being engaged. If we go down to the engagement conversions, even if you don't have any kind of transactional model, we can track goals, we can track success based on engagement. So based on pages or screens per session, or based on session duration, either. Goal conversion rate in Google Analytics. So you have set up you have configured a goal for sign up for your health tips. You're a medical website, or you're potentially a medical insurance website, and you have health tips as an action. Health tip sign up is an action that you want your visitors to take. And if we have time during the Q&A, we haven't really walked through the goal setup, but if we have time during Q&A, we will walk through the setup. But once you set up a goal for a specific action, such as health tip sign up, Google Analytics will calculate additional metrics. So conversion rate is calculated, the number of sessions in which visitors completed that action, so 2.42% in this case. And just as a note, conversion rates a lot of times are smaller than we think they are. We tend to think that we're going to see 20-30% conversion rates. That's pretty rare. So a lot of times, in a lot of scenarios, certainly in a lot of retail scenarios, a conversion right around this percentage is fairly expectable. We're also going to look at abandonment rate. If we define a funnel, on top of our goal, abandonment rate will indicate the number of visitors who entered the funnel, the number of sessions during which a visitor entered a funnel and did not complete the action. And just as another indicator of goal conversion rate, we want to keep in mind that conversion rate is defined as the number of completions per sessions, not per users. So that's another reason that conversion rate can look lower than you might think, because especially if you have a complex interaction or potentially a higher priced item, higher price point, it may take multiple sessions before someone converts. If that's the case, then all of the preceding sessions will look like they're lowering the conversion rate. So that's an important fundamental definition of conversion that we want to keep in mind. Conversion is based on sessions, it's not based on users. So you want to make sure you're giving yourself the right credit. If someone asks you why are only 1% of people converting, it may actually be 5% of people that are converting. But since conversion rate is calculated based on sessions, the conversion rate is going to look lower. Just keep that in mind. Funnels. You can also define a funnel on top of a goal. It's not obligatory to define a funnel on top of a goal, but we can set up a funnel if there's a specific path that you expect your visitors to follow to get to your conversion, to get to the goal completion. We can configure a funnel. Funnel visualization report looks like this within Google Analytics, and there are different ways you can configure it. You could allow people to enter at different points of the funnel. You could restrict the funnel to just the top step, as we have in this case. The important thing to consider in both cases, if you just take 2 seconds and scan this funnel, I want everyone to try to just take 2 seconds and see where the biggest drop-off is. Where's the biggest drop-off in this funnel? We see that it's right here. There's 30% abandonment within that step because only 70% of visitors proceeded to the next step. What are the remediation steps that you could take? Look at the page, do usability testing on the page, try to determine through analytics, through qualitative assessment, what is preventing 30% of your visitors from proceeding to the next step. So that's the type of insight that a funnel can provide. Also, very quickly, if we set up a value for our goals, if we say that every time that someone downloads our company catalog, we are going to say that that is worth 10 euros to us, or even 1 euro, or $1, or whatever your currency is, 1 dirham, that would, in UAE, even if you have a nominal amount that you set for your goal completion, you're going to be able to calculate page value, and page value will show you the pages that are supporting the conversion that may have nothing to do with the conversion funnel. So you have an About Us page. Well, if your About Us page has a very high page value, it means that it's supporting your goal completions or your e-commerce transactions without you maybe even realizing that it was helping conversions all along. So it's an important page in terms of getting users to complete the actions that you want them to take. So page value is also an important metric. Also, within Google Analytics Premium, similar to the conversion, the goal conversion funnel, you can also set up custom funnels in Google Analytics Premium. A little more flexible than goals, and also they are retroactive. That's actually the important part of the flexibility of the custom funnels, is that they are retroactive. Goals are not retroactive in Google Analytics, so definitely don't delay in setting up your goals, and if you set up a funnel on top of a goal, don't delay, because they are not retroactive. Within Google Analytics Premium, the custom funnels are retroactive. And also, just as a note, I want to think in terms of analytics and marketing integration. Also within Premium, you can create a new segment and you can remarket. So we can segment our audience based on visitors who, say, did not complete payment information, got all the way to payment and did not complete it. And then we could remarket to those visitors. We could segment according to those visitors. Okay, basic e-commerce tracking. With basic e-commerce tracking, we are providing Google Analytics, we are pushing transaction data into Google Analytics. So even basic e-commerce tracking is a lot more detailed than goal tracking, but it does require additional code level setup. Goal tracking is only an admin configuration. You do not have to push any additional data into Google Analytics to track goals. E-commerce tracking does require additional transactional data. And enhanced e-commerce tracking, which Roberto is going to explore with us, requires additional data to be pushed into Google Analytics. With basic e-commerce tracking, you're calculating metrics such as revenue, you're calculating metrics such as average order value, but it's just about the transaction itself, whereas enhanced e-commerce is about the steps that lead up to the transaction as well. Page value for e-commerce as well. Which pages are supporting the e-commerce transaction? In this case, free shipping, even though that may not necessarily be directly in the conversion path, that is supporting our e-commerce transactions. We can tell that by the page value metric that you would access within the Pages report. Switching over to the app end, talking about funnels, talking about what is driving success, talking about where the roadblocks to success may be. If you integrate your app property into Google Play, you can measure drop-off from accesses on the Google Play, on the marketplace, directly someone coming to your Google Play page, to installation, to actual usage. So you can measure drop-off between those among those users who were exposed to your app then installed the app and used the app. There's a lot, after installation, there's a lot of abandonment as well. So this is another funnel that you can use to measure your success and to measure drop-off, what is impeding success, potentially. Just to make sure that we look a little bit more broadly and a little bit more long-term at our success factors, CRM integration. We can store a visitor ID within Google Analytics, store that same visitor ID within a CRM, and merge that data. You can't merge all of it. You cannot merge personally identifiable information within Google Analytics, but you can merge Google Analytics data into a CRM or into a third-party data store. And you can pull in non-personally identifiable CRM data into Google Analytics as well. So there are a lot of integrations that you can do to assess, for instance, lead qualification, or to look at customer lifetime value or long-term value by traffic source through CRM integration. So in this case, we've run a social campaign on through LinkedIn, Facebook. This is a fictitious report, but just to demonstrate. We've also run AdWords memory chip report. Through our sales team has qualified the lead in our CRM, and we've pulled that lead status back into Google Analytics so we could see not only the number of leads that we generated, but if they were qualified or unqualified. So a little bit more of a broader perspective. Also for CRM integration with personally identifiable data, which we cannot do within Google Analytics, but we can do in a third-party system by storing the common visitor ID within Google Analytics within the CRM system. We can get an idea of 12-month value, or whatever time period you would want to use, 18-month value by original campaign channel. So not only what drove the initial conversion, but what channels are driving long-term value as well. With that, that was a little bit of a whirlwind, and we're going to get some more great information from Roberto. So I am going to turn it over to Roberto Croce. I'm just going to pull up our presentation on this end.
Thank you, Eric. We'll take the questions at the end of the session. We'll be switching now to Roberto, and I know we had a little difficulty maybe with some technical issue, but so basically we're going to synchronize the slides with Roberto joining us from a call, so bear with us here.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for the introduction. A pleasure to be with you today. So today we are going to focus on enhanced e-commerce. As Abdullah was saying, I had some technical difficulties in joining the webinar, so you will hear me saying a few times next. It will be just instructions for my colleagues to move on with the slides. So next. So if we look at how Google Analytics used to see e-commerce, it's something like equivalent to trying to run a business looking at who comes through the door and store receipts. Next. In fact, the focus of how Google Analytics used to track e-commerce was mostly on transactions and looking at if a purchase was completed or not. Next. But today's world is really changing, and what is changing is the way we are going to focus on users, and from a measurement perspective, also how analytics is providing solutions to track more about user level interactions. So basically, e-commerce has evolved, full customer journey, path to conversion, multi-session, multiple screens. So here is the background. So we have all likely heard about the importance of having a unified view of the customer. One of the major challenges for many retailers has been the silos of data that exist between your offline and online channels. In order to understand the impact of online behavior on offline purchases, we recently completed a research study with Sterling Brands around the interaction of online and offline shopping channels. And today I'd like to share some of these findings with you, and then introduce also enhanced e-commerce. So Importantly, I also want to cover how Google Analytics Premium can help you validate some of these findings from your own business and how you create opportunities that take advantage of these behaviors. Because as you all know, in today's world, you need to optimize for both online and offline, not just one or the other. So first, let's confirm what we already know. Today's consumers are constantly online and are making increasingly informed purchase decisions. They want information throughout the shopping process, and this drives their use of smartphones and their consumption of online information for shopping. Retailers that ignore these trends risk losing customers, while opportunities exist for retailers who find ways to take advantage of this behavior. Next. So we were right about consumers' desire for information, but we didn't have a clear picture of what this could mean for brick-and-mortar stores. The research we did shows that rather than marginalizing the value of in-store shopping, smartphones and online information offer an opportunity for stores to enhance consumer shopping experience. We have found 3 myths. So the first myth. So reality is that search results are a powerful way to drive consumers to stores. In particular, providing local information online, such as item availability at a nearby store, for example, local store hours, etc. This fills in information gaps that are, keeping consumers away from stores. Next. In fact, In fact, 3 in 4 customers who find local information in search results helpful are more likely to visit stores. Local info is, for example, price checks, stores, business hours, location of closest stores with item in stock, something like that. So retailers such as Sephora, IKEA, or other retailers we are working with are taking advantage of these trends by allowing users to check availability of products in local stores. Next. In fact, retailers such the ones I mentioned are all taking advantage of this opportunity by allowing consumers to check availability of products in their local stores. This has the dual advantage of saving on shipping costs for both the merchant and the consumer, while driving users to stores, which provides additional opportunities to upsell users on additional products while avoiding the frustration of users in case products are out of stock. So other retailers, such as Best Buy, for example, in the US, provide the ability to check out online and pick up in store, which again drives store visits while allowing users to avoid long checkout lines. Importantly, you can use Google Analytics to validate which areas of your site or app users are interested in, whether it is store location information, in-store availability, or shipping information. Next. So second myth, myth number 2. So once consumers begin looking at smartphones, the store has lost their attention. The reality is opportunity for stores can grab consumers' attention through search results and the retailer's mobile site or app. Next. So when looking for product information online, users say they use 64% search engines, 46% retailer site app, and then we see a percentage for retailer site app or another type of site apps, 26%. Next. So with Google Analytics, you can use the visitor flow report to understand how users are navigating through your site or app. In fact, you can apply a segment for mobile devices to understand the paths that users take when they are on their mobile phone specifically, for example. And this can help inform how to optimize your site experience by device. Next. Likely, you are all familiar with the phenomenon of showroom and reverse showrooming, for example. So you can use data to start to understand which is more prevalent for your business and how to capitalize on these opportunities. So when it comes to price, it's mostly about item cost, for example, or when it comes to shipping, it's all about shipping costs, inconvenience pickup costs, delivery time, delay, return to store, written guarantees, all this stuff. So this has an impact, and you can use Google Analytics to better understand showrooming effect. Next. Last May, also, we launched a completely revamp of our enhanced e-commerce analytics. Honestly, this was called enhanced e-commerce. So using enhanced e-commerce, you can now see how far users are getting in the shopping funnel, whether they are simply browsing product detail pages, adding items to cart, starting the checkout process, or other method purchasing. So you have the ability to analyze by device, by region, or channel, how far users are progressing in the shopping funnel. And this is cool. This helps you understand how user shopping behavior, first of all, and also allows you to optimize the purchase funnel. For example, you can identify which segments of users are most frequently abandoning the checkout. Next slide. So third myth. consumers just go to stores to transact. Next slide. Except now they accept more out of any place they shop. So they want informed, customized experiences. This is what consumers use stores throughout the purchase process about. So here we see 69% of consumers use physical stores for information during different phases of the purchase process. And it's all about these main phases. So it's all about inspiration, research. 55% is purchase, and post-purchase is just a few percentage. It's 14%. Next slide. On top of that, consumers want personalization. This is a key word that's going to be even more important in the coming months, because consumers, especially in the e-commerce retail world, consumers want coupons, recommended products. Here we see also recommendations based on what friends, family have purchased. So this is something very important. Next slide. And again, you can use enhanced e-commerce to easily remarket to specific consumers and to offer them coupons, for example, to link to the previous slide, that will bring them back to your page. So better understand your audience. You will see, Eric talked a little bit before about custom funnels. Basically, you can, with enhanced e-commerce, you can easily track the funnel, and each step of the funnel, with one single click, you can build the audience that is behind that step of the funnel, and then you can remarket to that audience, or you can exclude that audience for negative remarketing, for example. Next slide. On top of that, we have been adding cool new features to enhance the e-commerce. For example, to offer related products. It's a kind of recommendation engine that is based on what the consumer has viewed and purchased. So it's a very smart way to promote cross-selling or upselling products or services, leveraging information that Google Analytics has been collected about that user. Next slide. So in summary, the research we did shows that the shopping experience is increasingly blurred between online and offline, and there are opportunities for retailers to take advantage of a true omni-channel strategy to augment the in-store shopping experience with online information. So data and Google Analytics are core to informing such a strategy by providing deeper insights into your users and what they're doing. So this is why we introduced, basically, next slide, enhanced e-commerce. We already got a sneak preview of different features and added value that enhanced e-commerce can bring. If we switch to the next slide, basically with enhanced e-commerce, you have to next slide again. With enhanced e-commerce, you can start to ask meaningful and actionable questions of your analytics data. Questions like, for example, how far users are getting through the shopping funnel? Where and why are they failing out of the process? How effective are my marketing efforts at driving different shopping behavior? Like, for example, I don't know, product detail views, add to cart, checkout starts, whatever. And also, which devices are they using to research products? And what about when they're ready to purchase, if they're using the same device or, for example, a different device? So it all starts from the digital analyst work that is asking the right questions. And for us, if we turn to the next slide, this is exactly what enhanced e-commerce enables our retailers to do, is moving from data to decisions. And basically, these are the three major sets of questions that you can try to solve using enhanced e-commerce. One is who, so it's all about the people, the audience, your consumers. The second is about what, about the products, what the consumers are interested about in your catalog, in the e-commerce side, and how these users are getting to your website, how they're purchasing across the site, and so on. So if we move to the next slide, so when it comes to people, it's all about getting insights into user shopping behavior. So it's really important to understand how users are progressing throughout the shopping funnel and where they're falling out of the process. Next. So basically, you can, for example, try to use enhanced e-commerce to ask questions like users that are completing purchases on tablet devices. And here you can see an example of the percentage of users, tablet users, that tablet check out twice as often as complete purchase 50% more often than overall users. So you can get this kind of insights. Move to the next slide. Or, for example, if you're more focused on mobile, you can see the mobile users that start the checkout process more often, but complete purchase 40% less than overall users. So you can get this kind of comparison of different segments of users throughout the funnel, throughout the journey, throughout the e-commerce funnel. And more importantly, again, switching to the next slide, what you can do is activate these segments. So it's not only doing kind of cohort analysis or compare different segments of users, but it's also activate the data, activate the segments, and use these segments to remarket different segments, like segments you can create at any shopping stage, like the cart, abandonment of the cart, or whatever. And then you can use these segments for remarketing, or if you are more sophisticated users, you are a Google Analytics Premium users, you can even use those segments to bid in real time in the programmatic world on any exchange available in the market. So if we move to the next slide, the second question is more focused about the what products. Next slide. So in this area, what insights you can get from enhanced e-commerce is basically what are the most popular products, or you can slice and dice data about, for example, by demographics or even by campaign. So you can answer questions about which ones or which products are the most frequently abandoned in the cart, or you can analyze by custom product attributes, which promotions impact sales of which products. You can analyze by predefined action types like detail, add, remove, checkout, purchase, refund, click, whatever. Basically, you can have really powerful data at your hand to really better understand the product attributes and the full life cycle of products purchases. Next slide. Again, here, if we can move forward the animation in the next slide, here is again another example where you can analyze by product attributes. You can see support by category. And again, we mentioned before the related products APIs. So here you have an example of how you can do more efficient cross-selling, upselling using the API. So importing feeds from products that you have in your stock and then relating with the navigation, behavior, and conversions data from users to suggest products and services in cross-sell, upsell. And then the very last set of questions is about how these users are navigating through the funnel and how they're getting to your website. So if we move to the next set of slides. So basically here you can get insights about the campaigns, which campaigns are driving awareness, which one are my closers. You can really understand that different levels from geos to device category to keyword, region, source. What is the impact of your acquisition channels into the e-commerce funnel? So you can tie everything together in, to get an end-to-end overview of the effectiveness of your campaigns through the e-commerce funnel. And if we move to the next slide, these insights you can feed into your decision-making process to understand which products you can showcase on your landing pages. Using product lists, for example, or better understand the products that are getting the most exposure, the ones that are a higher margin in terms of conversion rate as well, and then you can optimize landing pages according to all the insights that you can get from enhanced e-commerce. So you can also get product list performance, for example, as a next set of report. So you can have impressions and clicks on products in a product list. And we are also working on enhancing this view in enhanced e-commerce to provide a level of attribution from a product perspective for add to cart, checkout, and purchase to give you more insights about the funnel. And next slide. So we are constantly evolving enhanced e-commerce, which we recently introduced to provide you the best insights possible. So we are working on many other features to add even more cohesive support with Google Tag Manager, vouchers, coupons, internal promotions, tracking, refunds that you can already do by importing this data into Google Analytics and using it in enhanced e-commerce. And we are constantly working to evolve the way we see e-commerce and the way we work with retailers and e-commerce customers to provide them the best support possible. And this is only the beginning. Next slide. We are also working more, in terms of adding support for mobile, introducing a set of reports that are looking more into margin analysis, because the way we can import data, cost data from other sources of data or CRM enables us to look more into profits rather than standard CPA, CPC metrics. We have deeper integrations with Google Shopping Merchant Center. We are moving towards a user-centric analysis, and probably this is the turnkey point for analytics solutions to be more user-level, user-centric. And for premium customers, of course, we also have a tight integration with all double-click solutions, which allows you to activate this data on all the exchanges and programmatic real-time bidding solutions available in the market for you to activate data and have a better, effective remarketing strategy in place for your customers. This was basically it for today. It was a very high-level overview of enhanced e-commerce. I hope it was insightful and helpful for you. I think we still have left a few minutes for any questions. Should you have interest, doubts, questions, we are here to help.
Thank you, Roberto. I'm going to switch it now to Eric to just give you some conclusion.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you very much for that overview of enhanced e-commerce. So today we saw that we can really span the whole spectrum of tracking actions and tracking those actions as success. So certainly on the retail end, on the e-commerce end, there's very granular tracking that we can implement to really have a very deep understanding of how users are interacting with our digital properties, trying to dig down deeper into the actual paths that are leading to conversions, the different types of user behaviors that are driving conversions, and even if you are not dealing with a transactional website in terms of e-commerce, or if you are primarily dealing with a publishing model, we can still track those successes through goal tracking. So the feature set, the capabilities are getting more and more broad. There's more and more that we can do for goal tracking, for e-commerce tracking, but whatever success means to you, you can define that, you can implement that within Google Analytics, and there are increasingly more detailed ways that we can do that, and more, as Roberto was mentioning, more of a user-centric analysis as well. Even as when we talk about user-centric, as one example, we both mentioned remarketing. So now you can tie in your behavior to your marketing efforts. If a visitor got all the way to the purchase page but did not purchase, that visitor is going to be more qualified than someone who has never been to your website, or someone who has maybe just visited the home page. So when we're talking about that user-centric analysis, that's what one of the things that we're talking about is an integrated approach to conversion optimization. So your actions, there are a lot of different actions that we could take. It's hard to summarize all of the topics that we discussed with just a few actions, but one thing that you can start with is really assess what, even before conversion tracking, assess what user actions are important to you and that may not be tracked currently. So if you have video downloads, offsite links that you want to track, make sure that those are tracked as either events or virtual page views. And there are additional information resources that we'll point to for additional information on how you could do that. We're saying implement event tracking. There is a little bit to that, and we realize that. But it's important. The first step is awareness for sure. So it's important that we're aware of the actions that would not be tracked by default. Set up goals for success actions that don't involve, sorry for that extra D there, that don't involve detailed transactional data. So goals for transactions, that for conversions that are not transaction based, that are not e-commerce based. So any type of lead submission, any type of sign up, anytime that a visitor, an app user feels compelled enough to give you any kind of information, to submit any kind of information, you should track that as a conversion, and consider that, if not your big success, not your most wanted action, at least an action that's supporting your most wanted actions. And also on the e-commerce end, if you have an e-commerce website, at least set up basic e-commerce tracking. But really the recommendation now that there's e-commerce tracking, you saw all of the really, really rich reporting that enhanced e-commerce can provide, and also the online and offline integration. If you have a retail function on your site, minimum basic e-commerce, but really we want to look towards enhanced e-commerce because there's much richer funnel reporting, much richer perspective on what your users are doing to convert or potentially not convert, and what you can do to remedy that. So those are three basic actions that we could take from today's discussion additional resources, make sure to check out Google Analytics Academy. Also, the Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager solution guides, really good resources. There's our own eNOR blog. And please join us again. Second webinar. We covered a lot of ground today, and we didn't get into great detail about some of the topics that we mentioned. During our next webinar, we are going to focus pretty much exclusively on traffic attribution, on how your visitors are getting to you, what channels are driving conversions. Roberto is also going to talk about integration between ad impressions and conversions on your site. So we're going to get a perspective on actions on other websites that may be contributing to conversions on your website, even without a click-through. That's a really important capability that we can get through the double-click integration. So please join us for webinar 2 that's coming up on, sorry we don't have a date there, that's in 2 weeks, same time, November 30th. So we're going to have a more focused discussion on attribution, specifically making sure you understand where all of your traffic is coming from and what offsite interactions may be influencing your on-site conversions. And also, please join us in Dubai if you are there or if you can make it. It's an interesting place to visit, December 8th through 10th. I will be there during the training. I think that Roberto is going to be able to join us for a special session as well. So please make it if you can. We're going to get into all of these discussions and more in greater detail. So thank you for your participation today. We don't have a lot of time for Q&A. In fact, we're at time. But if folks do have questions, we are happy to stand the line. If you have other commitments, again, thank you for joining, and please join us again.
Thank you, Eric and Roberto. Again, the panelists will stick around for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand or send the question in the chat. Just going to go through the list quickly here. So I see a question from Jamie. I will unmute it in a second. Okay, Jamie, please go ahead with your question. Okay, we will move on to the next question.
Yeah, or we can type into chat as well, right? So,
correct. So type in the chat or raise your hand if you have a question, please. The next question we have is, can you please show us at least one event setup?
Sure. Yes, we can do that. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Google Tag Manager. So just as a note, and I'll try to still keep this brief, because once Eric starts talking about implementation of events in Google Tag Manager, it could get pretty detailed. So I'll try not to make this too long. But let's just jump back to our event tracking. So basically, conceptually, when you are configuring an event, you are sending this extra data into Google Analytics. So if someone clicked, let's say someone watched a video. Video is actually a little bit of a special case because you can't do it just through a general user DOM interaction like a click, like a PDF click. But let's say that this was an off-site link. What you would do very manually, if you were to do it manually, which is not best practice, you would add an additional on-click listener to your link, and you would say GA send event, and the event category could be PDF, and the event action could be link, and the event label would be the website that you are linking to. As a best practice, we don't want to edit individual links. So what we would do within Google Tag Manager, and the Tag Manager has rapidly become best practice for Google Analytics implementation. As an organization, Enor, all of the consulting clients that we work with, all of our implementations that we do are all through Google Tag Manager. At this point, we don't do any native tracking. It's a little bit different on the app end because Tag Manager, you certainly can use it on the app end, but there are more uses for it on the website end, and for all of the implementations that we work on, we do use Google Tag Manager. And part of the reason that we do that is the extensibility. There are many good reasons to use Tag Manager, but one of them is the extensibility, is the repeatability. We're going to see that for our event tracking. So let me just go to Tag Manager. Oops, sorry. Okay, go into test. We're in a test container, so the basic paradigm of tag management is a container. Go into tags. We'll set up a new tag. We'll call this GA. We could actually set up two tags that would cover many different types of links, but for now, let's do an event for offsite links, for all clicks off of your website. So we're going to call this GA offsite.
Apologies to interrupt. As I'm booked on another meeting, I need to leave the office. I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to this event today, to the webinar. It was really great for me to be here with you today. And to all the attendants, and thanks Enor for inviting me. And thanks to all the attendants. Should you have any additional questions, any interest in what Google is doing from a measurement perspective for e-commerce, for analytics, please feel free to post any question in the door, and we will make sure to get back to you with proper answer.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Eric, we can also follow up with this question maybe offline. I can schedule a call with the asker. We can follow up with this question. We do have another question. What our clients have constant referrer spam flooding their acquisition reports. So are there any plans maybe from Google that you're aware of, Eric, that can help maybe with a comprehensive referrer spam blocking?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's an ongoing issue. There should be something, a solution for the referral spam at some point from Google. From Google Analytics directly, from the Google Analytics team. There are, in the meantime, there are a couple of resources that you can use to address the referral spam. There is a static approach that Brian Clifton posted. There's also more of a dynamic utility that you can use that was developed by Simo Ahava. There should be something coming out at some point, hopefully relatively soon. Well, don't quote me on that, but there should be a solution for the referral spam at some point built into Google Analytics. It is an issue for everyone, and it is more of an issue for some websites than others. But in the meantime, I would check out the if you just Google Brian Clifton referral spam, or Simo Ahava, Ahava referral spam, And also Stefan Hamel, he also posted some good information about referral spam, STEFANEHAMEL. Just wondering if we could post this somewhere. If who is that question from?
Yep. Send me the names, Eric, and I'll make sure I post it to everybody.
Okay. Yeah, we will do that.
Okay.
We will do that.
Thank you, Eric. Any other question? All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, and again, looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Stick around for the names from Eric. I'll post it on the chat for everybody to see.
Yes, and also I just want to mention for this process that we were walking through, I'll forward a resource for that. We actually have a video on event configuration through Google Tag Manager, so you can watch the video whenever it's convenient for you. Okay, so are we taking more questions now, Abdullah? Or
no, sorry. I thought you were gonna have to send me something to post it. We'll follow up with the some other questions.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
That's right. We'll send out an email and we'll follow up with the list of things that you want to send out. Thank you again, everybody. This concludes the session for today.